Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be on drug trip reports, as you guys voted for on my latest poll on my community tab. If you would like to have a say in what I upload going forward, just be on the lookout for more polls on the community tab, and I'll try and make a weekly video idea selector if that makes any sense. Also, I am pretty sick at the moment, so please excuse that for this video. I'll try my best to not make it get in the way of anything, and yeah. Before we get started, I have to address that you don't try any of the drugs in this video out for yourself. You will regret it. Trust me, I know very well how curious you get when listening to these types of experiences, but for your own damn sake, just smoke weed or take nicotine if you really want to kill some brain cells, and it should be enough for you. As cheesy as this may sound, the best way to go about this whole thing is by just not taking anything at all. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the reports. Number 1. Don't huff gasoline. Or do. I'm not your mom, but it's extremely addicting. The auditory hallucinations will try to drag you back to the jerry can. It's extremely psychedelic in high doses, almost like salvia or DMT. You'll experience vivid scenes of wild landscapes or unimaginable circumstances, like meeting the love of your life or listening to the wind talk to you. You can even go so deep as to lose all contact with reality. I've had many insane experiences, but one I remember unlike any other. I imagined I was planted against this metaphysical barrier, like I was given a metric for three-dimensional existence. This long black bar thing stretched on forever, like it was an ever-expanding black log of three-dimensional snapshots. On the end of this black thing was me. A little orb of consciousness. My dumbass brain decides to throw this orb, and throw it I did. I felt this never-ending falling sensation, like I was a rock swinging through space on the end of this growing string. I felt shaken to my core, like I had just been given an idea of the limits of three-dimensional consciousness. The best way I could describe it is having my three-dimensional perspective fly through four-dimensional space. I felt powerless and truly like I reached the limit of consciousness. All I know is the shit that powers cars is wild, and I'm never doing it again. Number 2. I bought LSD from a friend. He told me 3 things. 1. Don't use it in public. 2. Fast before I use it. And 3. Be in the most relaxed state that I can be in, since I'm doing it alone. So I fasted for like a day and took it. First thing I noticed was that it tasted so frickin' bad. Like Pop Rocks, but made out of rust. It took a while to hit, but then it did. I first noticed the TV, which was probably 10 feet away from me, was so close to my face despite me lying on the sofa. Then the fake plants in our house started growing and crawling like demonic vines from the ceiling to the walls and was devouring everything until it reached me. I closed my eyes out of fear, and when I opened them, everything was back to normal for just a split second, and then the plants started growing and crawling again. I was more happy than scared because I thought, oh damn, so this is how it works, and just let the high take me. It was a long ass trip. I was listening to Logic's Everybody album, and there was a part where Neil deGrasse Tyson is God. He was narrating the short story The Egg by Andy Weir, and I literally experienced the lives of all the people that have, do, and will exist. The best explanation I have about it is that I experienced being a baby, living my life, then dying again and again. I experienced being murdered and sexually assaulted, then being the murderer, being the judge, the detainer, the executioner, and all of their friends, families, colleagues, literally everyone. Whenever people ask me to recall it, I just say that it feels like watching a full-length autobiography movie on my PC. But I felt everything that happened in it, because I was in it. And then when I'm done, I'm left with just a thumbnail to remember it. Then I watch another one, and it piles up until I have a Googleplex amount of thumbnails. Then I place them all in one folder, and I'm left with just the one thumbnail of the folder that writes The Lives of Everyone. Opening the folder is impossible now, because it will take forever to load, but whenever I see people now, I have a heightened sense of empathy, which helps me get closer to other people easier, since I feel that I've experienced their whole life before already. Other things happened on the trip as well. For example, while using my phone, everything was melting and the letters on my keypad were falling on my chest like cheese drippings. But I can still type because I memorized their positions on the screen, despite the letters literally moving around and morphing into different fonts and languages. I was listening to some lo-fi music and it had a female voice doing a baba dabba doo thing. At some point, it changes tempo and literally time either slows down or speeds up when it happens. Then at some point during the middle of the song, she stops for a moment and time literally froze for like 10 to 20 seconds. I checked if the video was loading or something, pressed play on and off multiple times and nothing happened. Then the music came back and it felt like I was sucked into a void and returned to Earth. When the high was subsiding, I played a game of Dota and I couldn't do anything because everything was changing sizes, from ant size to toy figurine sizes. Even their health bars were shifting from small to big. We still won the game for some reason, and when I woke up the next day, I checked the game's replay and I literally did nothing the whole game but walk around, stand somewhere, and then that was it. I got hungry, so I ate a piece of meat, and then for some reason I was chewing at it for like 3 hours or something. It was just one piece of meat. I researched about it, and LSD shouldn't taste bad, and what I got is most probably an N-bomb, because they said it tastes like rust. I had a weird side effect that still lingers to this day, years after I took it. Whenever I look at anything for too long, it like breathes in and out. What's worse is when I look at the ground for too long, especially rugs with patterns, they like blend around and stuff. Like when you mix paint around and the colors swirl around and stuff. Then when I snap back, it just suddenly goes back to being normal. It's not as severe as the first year since I took the N-bomb, but it was still a fun side effect, albeit a bit disorienting, because I was like high 24/7, and I didn't even need to take drugs. I think it's been like 7 years since then, and I don't regret the experience, but man, it was so wild. I also took some shrooms last year when I felt like I was ready to experience it again. And I had a girl do it with me, and it was crazy. Her face was literally turning into a baby, then to an old lady, and to a rotting skeleton while we were having sex. Then she turned into an elf when she started talking in her dialect, which I didn't understand, and it sounded like Elvish to me. Other stuff happened, like the room was shrinking and growing. Then when she was going down on me, her hair turned into spaghetti, and it was wild as hell. People always say that I exaggerate my experiences when I tell them these, but if I could transfer my experience to others, I would. Because if you haven't been that high, then why even take psychedelics in the first place? Number 3. A couple of years ago, I had an accidental overdose of a prescription drug called scopolamine. It's used to prevent motion sickness, similar to Dramamine. I wrote this shortly after my experience. The adverse effects I felt from scopolamine was the scariest and worst 24-hour experience of my life, and I still had lingering effects 60 hours later. There were moments of paralysis, blindness, and total lack of thought, and so many other things I hope no one else ever has to experience. At times I was trapped in my own body, unable to speak, hear, feel, touch, or process thoughts. My memory from the experience is fragmented and doesn't follow a normal timeline. Some things that I think happened later in time actually happened earlier in time. In the moment, I thought I could comprehend what was reality, but I knew I needed proof for my real self somehow. I typed 1- and 2-word notes in my phone to myself and found them late the next day. Some of the words made no sense, and some words were spelled perfectly. I vaguely remember trying to type, and it felt like an eternity to type a single word. I put together a timeline of events that I think are correct. What I had to overcome mentally was one of the most profound things that I think I will ever go through in my life, so I've done my best to document everything that I can think about the experience. I can easily see my experience being a life-changing event for someone, and they either come out better mentally when it's over, or have a psychotic meltdown and hurt themselves and anyone else around them. Friday, 6 p.m. I placed a prescribed 1 milligram scopolamine patch behind each ear. 9 p.m. Started feeling drowsy and very drunk. Had a couple of glasses of wine, so I thought the wine was hitting me. I then stopped drinking alcohol at this point and drank water only. 11 p.m. I'm very drowsy. I was hanging out in the condo talking, but I just thought I needed to go to sleep soon. Sometime over the next 2 hours is the point where my recollection of my memory timeline starts to get all out of order. Saturday, 12 a.m. I dozed off in my room. I remember waking up a few times to look at my phone. I could barely see my phone and thought something was wrong with my contacts. I remember wanting to call my wife, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. This was the time I realized I had a mental block and my brain didn't know how to tell my hands to move. Things got a little better for a bit, but I don't know what time. My vision was better and I could function and move. I brushed my teeth, changed, and laid back down in bed. I took my cash out of my back pocket and set it next to my overnight bag. I remember talking to my wife a couple of times on my phone. I remember feeling like I was drunk, but I knew I wasn't. 4:15 a.m. I was in a weird state of mind. Part of me thinks that I was awake the whole time, and part of me thinks it was a dream. There was a point where I somehow recognized reality and woke up totally paralyzed. My phone was in my left hand, and I could feel the weight of it in my hand, but I couldn't squeeze my phone. I had to think what seemed like minutes, possibly 10 minutes, just trying to figure out how to open my eyes. Over the next few minutes, I thought hard just to grasp my phone. I spent the next block of time trying to pick my phone up high enough to see the time. I think I fell asleep a couple of times trying to do this. Finally tilted my phone enough to see the screen, but I don't know for sure if I saw anything. I have a memory of seeing 4:15, but I don't know if I imagined it or if I truly saw the time. I also have a memory of 5, but I don't know why. 7 a.m. I wake up again, paralyzed. I can't move, I can't open my eyes. I don't know where I am. I don't know how to tell if I'm alive, dead, having a dream, or anything. I can process sounds that I'm hearing, and I think they're real. I can hear people talking, and I hear people parking cars. I hear what I think is a radio or TV with people speaking English. I hear them say that it's 7 in the morning, and then I fall back asleep. 8:30 a.m. 8:30 sticks in my head, but I don't know how I know the time. I wake up to a woman telling me she's there to clean the room. She says something along those lines a couple of times, and as much as I tried, I couldn't respond to her at all. I don't know what she did, or if she even cleaned, and I don't know when she left. I spent maybe the next hour just trying to sit up on the bed. I finally do, and I decide that I need to try and stand up to go to the bathroom. I tried to stand up, and I had no balance whatsoever. I had no control of my legs. I eventually crawled to the bathroom and sat down. I don't know how long, maybe 15 minutes. After a while, I decided to grab a 200 milligram caffeine pill to give me some energy. After a decent amount of time, I was able to take the pill with tap water and make it back to my bed. 10 a.m. The medication I took is giving me some energy now. Enough energy to make it to the living room where everyone is. I fall on the ground once in my room and stumble a few times on my way to the living room. I tell everyone how messed up I am, but they don't understand the magnitude of my situation. My words don't come out right, and I can't get my message across to them the way I want to. I'm still wondering to myself how I drank so much the night before to feel this way. I still wasn't thinking about the scopolamine causing my issues. Over the next few hours, my energy improves and I can function enough to at least try and go fishing. I noticed my vision slowly getting blurry over those 3 hours. I had contacts in, so I thought they were messed up somehow. It took me a while to realize my actual vision was messed up. 1 p.m. Taxi picks us up and we go fishing. We get on the boat and my balance is horrible. In my head, I blame my balance on the waves. So I just make sure to hold on to something the entire time we're on the water. My vision is getting increasingly worse, to the point that I can't read a single thing on my phone. I can't read any letters within 5 feet regardless of how big the text is. Sometimes I can squint my eyes just in the right way to send a text, but conversations with people are becoming extremely difficult. I can't keep my train of thought, and in mid-sentence I forget what I was talking about. This happened numerous times, probably 20 that I can remember. Eventually, my mouth is totally dry. It's one of the weirdest feelings to try and describe, but my mouth produced no saliva whatsoever. Along with 4.5 beers, I drank almost a gallon of water from 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. I'm getting more and more disoriented as the day goes on. At one point, I start thinking the scopolamine is the problem, so I decided to take off one of the patches, but my body's balance was getting worse. I took off the second patch at 5:30 p.m. when we got out of the boat. 6 p.m. We get back to the hotel to take a shower. We passed a pharmacy by the entrance of the condo, so I decided to walk to the pharmacy and ask the pharmacist if he could give me some advice. The pharmacy was closed, but the guy inside said I could come in. He was an American pharmacist that lives in Costa Rica. I tried to tell him my situation, but my memory kept fading away and I couldn't put sentences together. So instead, I just wrote some things on paper. After about 30 seconds of trying to talk to him, I could tell by his facial expressions that he knew exactly what was wrong with me. He eventually stopped me and said I was experiencing the adverse effects from the scopolamine. He called it devil's breath, and it's a very common thing with Colombian gangs to sedate people. He asked if he could take a picture of my eyes and show them to me. My pupils were fully dilated, and there was no brown part of my iris at all. He talked a while about the cultural part of it, but I'm not going to get into that now. He said there used to be a drug hospitals would use to reverse the effects, but the drug was never proven to work chemically. He told me that since I was able to walk myself to him as well as fish on a boat earlier, it wouldn't get any worse for me. He said anxiety would be the worst, and it was nothing more than a mental game for me at this point. He just said that I needed to find the mental strength to get through it. He said hospitals use sedatives to calm people down that are on it, but their brain still has to overcome the effects on its own. He said have a few drinks of wine or liquor to calm myself down a little. He said that most of the side effects would wear off in 3 days, but blurry vision can come and go for over a week. After he told me everything, I knew I was going to be fine and I could get through it on my own without going to a hospital. The rest of the night I was still very disoriented. Balance was horrible and I couldn't think through things very well. My buddy helped me out quite a bit so I wouldn't fall down or lose my balance on the way to watch a football game and then back to the hotel. It took me forever to pack that night. It was very difficult to organize things in my bag. I finally packed and went to sleep. I woke up Sunday morning, still disoriented and with blurry vision, but I could tell my body made progress. My entire experience was an open-eyed nightmare. I saw hallucinations, things moving that I knew weren't there. Sometimes I knew real things were there that were actually still, like a couch, but my mind said it was moving, and I could see it moving. In the moments I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or awake. I saw things that I don't even want to repeat. I saw animals being killed, people being killed, the weirdest of weird things. I couldn't see or recognize faces, whether dreaming or real. When I was fishing, people's faces were blank, totally void. My mind would not let me see who they were. I could make out colorful things on my phone's camera roll when my vision was the blurriest. That was really weird to me. Things are still coming back to me, slowly. Typing things out like this triggers more memories and things I went through. It was absolutely horrible. Number 4. This is a 500 milligram Benadryl trip report. A diphenhydramine trip for a 185-pound male. 650. At 650, I took 500 milligrams of diphenhydramine. At 7:05, I started to feel lightheaded, a slight body high. I feel a little heavy. My skin feels warmer than usual. 7:30. I start to feel heavier. It feels like my vision is flashing and I keep seeing specks move across my vision. 7:39. More specks in vision. They look like rainbow worms crawling over my vision and in the corners of my eye. My body high is much more intense. 7:45. There appear to be more visuals. The ceiling is moving, but the light on the ceiling. Body load kicking. I'm having fun. 8:30. I don't know what the hell is going on. My arms feel impossibly uncomfortable. I keep thinking people are talking to me and I keep responding. 9:45. Bugs are crawling around my blanket and I keep feeling like there's a bug on my back. The visuals are so intense now. They're everywhere, over my vision. It looks like my vision is glitching and flickering. I found a speck and I watched it crawl, while also staying in place. I looked closer and I could have sworn it was a bug, but it was just a speck. 10:30. 10:30. I'm losing my mind. I don't know where I am. I keep seeing people in the corners of my eyes. I'm extremely paranoid. I hear knocking and police sirens, but I know it's not real. I see faces in everything I look at. I see the hat man in the corner. Everything is dark and flickering. 11 o'clock. It's very difficult to stay awake. I'm scared. There was an outline of a giant tarantula crawling on my ceiling, and it made me panic. I don't know what's real and I can't trust my eyes or brain at all. I see hands coming out from under the door and under my blanket. 11:15. I see people standing around me. If I look through my camera, they go away, but they're there and they're laughing at me. 11:25. I try to sleep, but the voices are increasingly loud. I hear people whispering in my ear about nothing. I want this to be over. I think I'm going to try and go to sleep again. Number 5. This is the most horrific and traumatizing night of my life. My sober reality has been pretty dark lately, and I wanted an escape. Any escape. I read a bunch of DPH reports, and I was very intrigued. Supposedly, it makes you hallucinate a bunch of scary things. Spiders, ghosts, spirits, etc. I'm kinda into horror stuff and I wanted to see some ghosts, so I decided to take 400 milligrams of DPH and I took 500 milligrams of Psilocybin to add to the experience. Biggest mistake ever. After taking the drugs, I went up to my room and turned off all the lights and laid on my bed in complete darkness. I figured it would be more scary, more authentic with the lights all out. I was pretty excited to see some ghosts when things took a turn for the worst. About 45 minutes in, I feel this sense of impending doom. I feel very uneasy as if something bad is about to happen, and I regret taking the pills. I was on my phone at this point. About an hour and 15 minutes in, I hear banging noises, knocking noises, and footsteps. I sense some kind of presence. I turned on the flashlight on my phone to see what was happening, and tried to get out of bed, but I felt so heavy. It didn't feel safe walking because I might fall. I see two big spiders on the door of the room across from me. For reference, I'm in my room with a square hallway outside of my room, and there is a room across from mine with a door open about a foot. I'm not really afraid of spiders, so this didn't bother me, but I felt some kind of paranormal presence. At this point, I'm completely unable to read my phone. My vision is so blurry, so I can't read the time. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a ghost about 5 foot tall with a white dress standing in the hallway looking at me. I turned and looked directly at it, and it vanished. At this point, I'm a little scared, but soon I was about to see the most terrifying hallucination. I look into the hallway, and I can see a demonic-looking face staring at me through the door of that room. I can't really describe what it looked like, but the best I can do is it looked like Jeff the Killer. This whole time I'm also having an auditory hallucination of banging, knocking, footsteps, etc. I look at the foot of my bed and see an 8 to 9 foot tall shadow figure float towards me. I'm paralyzed with fear at this point. I shine the flashlight right on it and it fades away. The next hallucination is why I'm fucking scarred for life. All my senses were heightened 10 times. I touched my arm and the warmth from my hand felt like my arm was on fire. I hear something outside my room and I see the tip of a knife start moving around the corner. From my point of view, I'm looking through the doorway right outside my room. The knife moves around the corner until I can see the whole knife. There's a hand holding it. I don't see the arm or body of whatever's holding it because it's on the other side of the wall. Next, the knife and hand disappear and about 5 seconds later, the same face from earlier peeks around the corner at me and stares me down, smiling the whole time. I was having a staring contest with this entity. I was bracing for impact. Any second now, and I will be stabbed to death. Then the face disappeared. I was so scared I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I figured if I turned off my flashlight, I wouldn't be able to see these things and they couldn't bother me. I was wrong. It was twice as scary with the flashlight off in pitch darkness. I kept telling myself this isn't real, but my brain wouldn't register it. Now, in complete darkness, I can hear these things around me. Footsteps and banging, and I can sense that I'm being watched. I thought any second now I'm gonna get got. You know in horror movies when it's tense and you're bracing for a jump scare? Imagine that times 1,000. To make things even worse, I was stuck in a time loop while this was happening. It felt like it would never end. It felt like days on end of this feeling of I'm about to be killed. I was hoping they would just get it over with already. I was so scared I wanted to die. I think I have PTSD now from this experience. Today at work I had a panic attack, and I've never had one before, and I had to leave work. I was crying uncontrollably, shaking and hyperventilating at work. I also feel unsafe in my room. Even the thought of this room makes me sick. This is a lesson to anyone reading this. Never fucking take a tripping dose of DPH. Also, I don't even 100% remember everything that happened the entire trip. This is just what I can remember. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. And with all that being said, shh. I love you. 9:45. Bugs. Bugs. Oh, that's great. That's going in the outro. I figured it would be more